And Boyd Matheson, now Republican strategist, former chief of staff for Senator Mike Lee, also radio host of Inside Sources. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Oh, I think we might be muted. Try one more time.
Are you there?
I gotcha. Loud and clear. Thank you. Thanks for helping us track this. We are less than 2 hours away from voting. Do you think McCarthy has a chance?
Yes, he definitely does. He clearly does. But I think we're actually missing a really interesting conversation. And yes, there hasn't been a multiple ballot vote for the speaker in over 100 years. And I actually don't think that's a good thing. We've sort of created this false choice of it's either the establishment of the party represented by Kevin McCarthy or more to the right wing end of the spectrum in terms of the Freedom Caucus. And the reality is we've become so dependent. Members are so dependent on the establishment to raise money, to win re-election, to get committee assignments or chairmanships, that we really haven't had any kind of debate. And when you look at it, there are really about 180 members that sort of fit in the middle, who often don't really make a fuss or make much noise because they still want good committees and they still want help fundraising in their re-election campaign. And I think it could get interesting today. I think if it goes multiple ballots, which is not a bad thing, you could have an interesting person emerge from that. And we should remember, too, that the Speaker of the House actually doesn't even have to be a member. You could actually vote for somebody outside to come in and be over the House. I doubt that's going to happen, but it's an interesting thing to think about.
Oh, absolutely. The possibilities here. Let's take a quick look at the concessions McCarthy has already made, allowing the House majority to vote to remove the Speaker, greenlighting a House subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government to scrutinize the Biden administration and federal agencies. What do you think this means when it comes to the incoming Congress's ability to negotiate and to actually work together?
Yeah, the governing question becomes the real challenge there. If the speaker is always under threat that 5 members can call to vacate the chair is the way they go about that, that makes it really tough to govern and to actually get solutions. And I think every member of Congress today, before they vote for anybody, they got to really step back and think of the 760,000 people that they represent in their own district. They're not there to represent Kevin McCarthy or the establishment. They're not there to represent the Freedom Caucus. They're there to represent the 760,000 citizens that live in their district. And so the question should really be, who can best govern? Who can best lead to a conversation about principles and about policies that will actually impact the American people?
I want to get your insight into some other big political news today as well. Florida's Ron DeSantis will be sworn in for his second term as governor. Do we still expect him to run for president and challenge former President Trump?
I think he will likely get into that. I think he's going to wait just a little bit and kind of see how those things shake out a little bit. I think we're a long way from 2024, but definitely Governor DeSantis has his eye on that prize, and that will, of course, set up a real interesting thing. I think the Republican primary will be quite fascinating, as will the Democrats. I don't think President Biden, I think he will announce and will run, but that will create some interesting dynamics. He won't go unopposed, I don't think. And there's a lot of folks out there. This is very, very early. DeSantis, I think, will get in and be part of that conversation. I think he'd like to wait until their legislative session is over in Florida, which is about June. So I think that's his target date, but that will depend on who else gets in. If anybody else gets momentum, that'll be the real test.
All right. Republican strategist Boyd Matheson, appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.